Hi, hello everyone, and it's my pleasure to welcome everyone to this webinar on 6 key trends impacting B2B sales. As we wait for more people to join in, we see a good group of people who registered and more are coming in as well. I'll give a quick introduction of the webinar and I'll also introduce the speakers. So first off, our first speaker is Mr. Sumit Sahni. Sumit is also the CEO and partner of at InspireOne. And as an expert facilitator, Sumit has trained close to around 10,000 people in workshops that he has conducted across India and across all over the globe. He's conducted leadership programs on topics like strategic thinking, strategic execution, innovation, driving digital transformation, change management, and customer-centric organizations, and also sales leadership. Sumit has deep exposure in many industries, which include telecom, financial services, FMCG, manufacturing, healthcare, and the list goes on. So thanks a lot, Sumit, and we welcome you to the webinar.
Thanks, Vikrant, and good afternoon, everyone.
Next speaker is Mr. Vijay Singh. Vijay is a highly accomplished consultant and facilitator with over 15 years of experience in learning and organization development. He has managed and led large, complex client engagements and has worked on enhancing client relationships as well, specializing in leadership development, design thinking, emotional intelligence, and sales enablement. Vijay has spearheaded various impactful leadership initiatives. As a subject matter expert in sales, he excels in enabling sales team to positively impact sales through his sessions on sales enablement. So, Vijay, we're very happy to have you here in the session as well.
Thank you so much, Vikrant.
Vijay, I think you may be on mute. Vijay, sorry, I think you're on mute.
So I think we can wait for a couple of more minutes before we begin.
No, I think we can get started.
Okay, sure. All right. So thank you so much, Vikrant, for such a lovely introduction for me and Sumit, and all the efforts in getting us this platform through which we enlighten our audience today. And how can they literally relook at their sales play field while they also relook at their the definition of how they can make sales enablement as one of the most impactful practices in their respective roles and their organizations. So let's carry on with this. A quick introduction about InspireOne, a name that the entire country resonates well when it comes to various industries, from BFSI, automobile, manufacturing, technology, IT, ITS. We've been working with all these brands across the country on various interventions. And not only that, I think we also believe in creating a customer value proposition for all our clients by ensuring that we develop a very handcrafted, curated, bespoke interventions as per the requirements by our respective clients. Talking about TACK, I think a name that needs no introduction, a brand headquartered out of UK, has been inspiring and working across the globe with presence across 50 odd countries, and has a world-renowned sales content, and has been also awarded as the top 20 training companies across the globe by none other than yourtrainingindustry.com, which is a great achievement. And being our global learning partners, that strengthens our complete infrastructure when it comes to content, it comes to delivery, not only in the country, but we also deliver across the globe with a lot of channel partners associated with us across the globe. So that makes us very unique when it comes to sales enablement for various organizations. Moving on from here, a quick insight into a very beautiful suite of options available under the TACK solutions when it comes to sales enablement, ranging from key account management all the way to channel management, sales management, enabling people through valuable negotiation skills, value-based selling. So the list is huge, as you see on the screen. I think we've excelled and made an impact at every level, from the level, it starts in the organization to the topmost level, enabling every single individual to impact and also to bring value in every single transaction or the touch point they have with their customers. Moving on. So, ladies and gentlemen, people on the call, this is the most interesting aspect of our webinar today. I would like to start my session with one of my favorite Chinese proverbs, which goes like this. Organizations which are not thinking in investing in their people, they have a very long way in the journey to go. Organizations who have already started thinking are halfway through. And the ones who took the decisions have arrived. So I would personally like to congratulate each one of you on being a part of this webinar, which means you have taken a decision to make sure that you bring about a positive impact when it comes to your people, which is enabling them and empowering them with some brilliant insights that we're about to share with each one of you on the webinar. And not only that, but also to enable them to handle various transactions and the conversations that they get into with their respective clients and make them very powerful and enabled with the skill sets that is required. With this, I would quickly like to introduce, a global survey that was conducted through TACK TMI, which covered 16 odd countries, and we had about 1,600 odd responses that were captured. And across the globe, that includes India as well, which, being the most dynamic country, we also have, inputs that came from India. As sellers, you have a better understanding of the buyers and how to really look at your, to approach that you have when you deal with your sellers. For managers, insights that can really help you shape your sales strategy. How do I delve into my conversations and make more meaningful decisions by understanding the insights that we're about to share? And as learning professionals on the call, the skills and the behaviors that are required to excel in your current roles is with what we would discuss in a short while from now. So thank you so much once again, people, for taking this decision and being on this webinar with us. And I'm sure every single minute that we spend would be worth it. Moving on, the 6 key themes that typically emerged once the survey was conducted is right on the screen for all of you to have a look at. We would be talking about a few of them, but if you really want to deep dive into the entire list that you see on the screen, we would be more than happy to share the entire report with you. You can reach out to us one-to-one, and we would be sharing the entire detailed report that you can glimpse through and have a look at. So some of the insights that you see, the themes that you see, are around making your conversations count, keeping it personal, mastering the fundamentals, emotionally intelligent selling, non-linear purchasing, and last but not the least, the collaboration equation. Now, while I was going all through this, in such a dynamic, ever-changing environment with so much of AI coming in, so much of automation coming in, there are people, there are customers who still value face-to-face communication, face-to-face conversations. And Sumit, I really would like you to help us understand. By looking at the stats on the screen, it says 54% still prioritize face-to-face meetings when engaging with the salespeople. Why do you think that conversations really hold such a great value, and what can salespeople do to make their conversations count?
Thanks so much, Vijay. And again, good afternoon, everyone. Well, I think the insight is actually not very surprising because what has really come out in our survey is that even in the world of AI and the digital sales that we are all living in, what matters to buyers is the conversations, right? It's the conversations that count, and it's the conversations that are critical for to help them to make a buying decision. In fact, when we ask the buyer specifically to say that what aspects of the salesperson's communication matters most to you, these are the top 5 points that came out. And I'll talk about these 5 points, but before I go there, I'll just talk a little bit about something interesting that came in the survey. That in the survey, only 25% of buyers actually rated salespeople high. They said that only 25% of them said that the sales interactions that we do with sales teams of other organizations are of high quality or of good quality. And then we asked them further to say, what is it that the sales team can do to make the conversation more high quality, these are the top 5 points that came out. Number one, not surprisingly, was communication. Because when we are talking about making the conversation count, the way a salesperson interacts with a company, the communication skills that they display is very critical. But if I had to double down even on communication skills, maybe the most important insight that came in was around listening, where what the buyer said is that only 23% of salespeople that they interact with are good listeners, have got good listening skills. So the issue is that if I'm, talking to someone, whose listening skills are not very good, their ability to understand my needs is limited. Their ability to create a solution for me is very limited. The big point was around effective communication, largely around effective listening skills. The second area that came across was the salesperson's ability to demonstrate strategic thinking in the conversation. So how do the sales team listens to the client's need and then are able to apply strategic thinking to create a solution for the client, keeping in mind what their business strategy is. Another interesting insight that came in was around business acumen. And here, what business acumen means, I must clarify that in a sales conversation, what the insight we came out with was that the business acumen really means my ability to show return on investment. Because when a client is investing certain amount of rupees or dollars in the business that they give to a selling organization, what more and more clients are expecting is some kind of a return on investment. So it's the business acumen of the salesperson to be able to showcase what the ROI would look like, what are the cost benefit analysis from a client's perspective. And this is also becoming critical because the clients in fact will have to convince other people in their own organization. The fourth important point that came out was on collaboration. And what really the buyers said over here, that there are two types of collaboration that matter for us. Number one is collaborating with us as a client organization to create the right solution. They said, listen, we understand that a lot of times the selling organizations may not have exactly the solution that we're looking for. So what we're looking for is a collaborative sales process where the salesperson and us can collaborate and create a total solution. But the second aspect of collaboration that they also spoke about, particularly because these were B2B organizations, is how collaborative is the salesperson internally in their own organization to network with stakeholders and create the right solution for the client. And the fifth important element that came in was on credibility of the salesperson. And the credibility here does not only stand for areas like honesty, which we'll talk about, a little later in the conversation. But what it talks about is the salesperson's ability to provide thought leadership. That when I am as a buyer, sitting down with a salesperson, do I feel in that meeting the person is providing me with thought leadership, ideas or suggestions that I feel are coming in from a credible source that I think that can add value to my business. So Vijay, these are some of the critical things that came out from a making a conversations count perspective.
Thank you so much, Sumit. I think amazing inputs and such diverging paradigms where customers still feel face-to-face conversation makes a lot of difference. And it also strengthens the relationship, with every single connect that we make with the customer. Moving on, Sumit, you know what? I always believed in that emotions at work somewhat makes you weak. But when I actually dwell down into the report, I found that, customers really connected well with emotionally intelligent sellers versus those low on the EQ. Now, when I say honesty and communication under this key insight, what does it mean? When I'm talking to a customer, am I really listening to that customer honestly from a perspective to understand the situation or respond? And again, communication skill comes as a second emotionally intelligent part of here. When I say communication skill here, what does it really mean? Am I asking the relevant questions to understand the need of my customer? Hence, these two things are becoming very imperative. And not only that, I think emotionally intelligent people, they make decisions very diligently to make sure that they resonate with the emotions of their customers also. That is something that came out beautifully well in the survey. Now, there's another aspect to it, which is business advisor and consultative approach. Sumit, I would really like to understand, out of these three, what would be, why do you think rather a business advisor matters, being one matters, and what can the salespeople do differently or about it to, enhance that side of their skill set?
Sure, Vijay. See, when we really think about the concept of emotional intelligence selling, let's imagine a situation where we were interacting with a salesperson who was not emotionally intelligent, right? What is it that that particular person would have displayed? Typically, what we would notice is that when a salesperson is not emotionally intelligent, A, there is very less listening that is happening to understand the needs of the other person. The second aspect of emotional intelligence, or the sales people who are weak in emotional intelligence reflects in the type of solutions that they create because they have not been able to understand the customer situations and create a solution that reflect on the customer's perspective. And that's the reason why the way I consult a customer, the way I become a business advisor to the consultant, to the customer, reflects on my own emotional intelligence of paying attention, listening to the other individual, and creating a need. Now, why does it matter so much? Is when we asked the buyers in this survey, what are the top reasons why you choose a company? Some very interesting insights came in. So the top four reasons were this. The number one reason was industry expertise, followed up by subject matter expertise, then the brand reputation and local market understanding, right? So these were the top four reasons. The next three reasons was the geographical presence that the company has, the degree of after sales service that they provide, the price, which was surprisingly at number seven, or maybe I would say not so surprisingly in the world that we are headed out to. And then there were three other parameters that came out was the quality of product, language capability, and commitment of the organizations towards diversity, equality, and inclusion. So that was an interesting insight because it's first time coming in a survey that now even the buying companies are evaluating the selling organizations on are they committed towards diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion. Having said that, top two, which is industry experience and subject matter expertise, 94% of buyers rated this as the top two. 94% of them said that for us, what really matters when we give business to other organizations is do you have expertise? One is in our own industry, and second is do you have the subject matter expertise as an organization that you're claiming to be? Now, this has some very critical implications for organizations first, before I talk about implications of salespeople. For organizations, in the sales process, how do we demonstrate industry and subject matter expertise becomes a very critical point, right? How do we build that depth of knowledge within the organization becomes a very critical point. But it also has a major implication as far as salespeople themselves are concerned. So I'm here reminded of a very famous 2x2 matrix that we have, in our organization, which looks at the various selling styles of people, right? So I'll to the audience, I'll explain this 2x2 matrix. So on x-axis, what we have here, emphasis on commitment, which means how much does a salesperson emphasize commitment from the client, and commitment here means closing the sale. So people who are high on this dimension typically are pushing the client to say, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. They're not understanding the needs very well, but they're just pushers. They're pushing the product and they're saying, just buy from me, right? On the y-axis, what we have over here is how much is the salesperson focusing on the relationship, right? So these people are very good relationship builders, network builders. They're trying to understand the needs of the client. They're trying to build deeper level of relationship with them, but they may not be very strong in promoting their own organization. So the dilemma over here is that when you look at this, there are four types of selling styles that come in. So the first selling style is what we call as ambassadors. Ambassadors are typically those salespeople who are very good in relationship building, right? They are happy to meet the client, great in networking, but they're not really good in being able to push the client and push the sales process forward. They're not really great in converting the client need into the value prop of my organization and convincing the client, right? So they have strengths, but they're limited strengths in today's world. Opposite to the ambassadors are what we call as salespeople who are advocates. Now, so if you just click on it once more, yeah. So the advocates are those people or those salespeople who are very focused on closing the sale. So in the first meeting, they want to close the sale. Immediately, they want to close the sale. They are constantly promoting their company's value prop. But what they're not able to do is able to understand the need of the client, build deeper level of relationship with them, build deeper level of trust with them. So they have a spray and pray strategy that I'll go into the client meeting, I'll talk about these products. Maybe one of them will crack into the need and a magic will happen. most of the time their conversion rates are not very high. Uh, the third profile here is someone who's low on both, which is just like an administrator, right? Sometimes salespeople can just be administrators, which means they're not really adding any value into the sales process. What they effectively end up doing is they end up passing information to their management. So if the client says something, they will go to the management. If the management says something, they'll replicate it back to the client. But there is no value addition that they are doing themselves from a sales process. And obviously, they're not really the great salespeople. Now, what the buyer survey is telling us is that the profile that is really required is that of a sales consultant, someone who's very, very good in both aspects, which is the aspect of relationship building, which is honesty, commitment, emotional intelligence, understanding the need of the client, and also equally, good in being able to convert those needs into some actually good, strong value propositions to get commitment back from the client. And therefore, the need of the hour that the buyers are saying is that of, Vijay, if you can click on the slide once more, of professional sales consultants. Now, what are the implications of it, this 2x2 matrix? Actually, there are many. One is that if you are a CEO of a company, if you are managing a large organization, it's very easy to plot the entire sales team on this 2x2 to say what is the scatter diagram looking for us, right? And if there is a high proportion of sales people who are either sitting as administrators, or advocate, then there is something wrong. Then we need to change that equation. Equally critical is the role of the sales manager. Are the sales managers actually coaching ambassadors to become sales consultants or coaching advocates to becoming sales consultants? Are the sales managers adequately and in an effective manner able to take decisions on administrators on what's the best place for them within the organization? So what basically the buyers are telling us is that I don't want to deal with an ambassador, I don't want to deal with an advocate. What I would prefer to deal with is a sales consultant. There is, before we take a break, there's one more deeper implication of this, and that is, let me just recap on a few data points. 94% of customers are saying we prefer expertise, we want honesty, we want business advisors, and this 2x2 is saying there is more requirement of sales consultants. What does it really mean also is that what is the level of learning agility that the salespeople have themselves? Because this type of an environment requires salespeople who are very strong learners, who are able to reflect on every client meeting, learn from it, prepare hard before a meeting, and they're making themselves as better thought leaders, so they can establish more credibility with their client. So those are some of the implications, Vijay, to keep in mind.
Thank you so much, Sumit. I think these insights will not only empower the people on the call, but also give them a lot of consensus as to what is one area that they would really like to focus upon. So with this, I would quickly take a pause, ladies and gentlemen on the call. If you have any questions so far, we would be more than happy to take them and help you with some inputs there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, so my understanding is that the audience can post their questions on the chat or the Q&A tab, and we'll be happy to take any ones in the middle, and then we'll carry on into the other areas.
True. So I would also encourage if there are any questions on the discussions point that we've covered so far, talking about making the conversations, they really count. People really want to have face-to-face conversations versus, emotionally intelligent people versus, being business advisors. Anything that comes to your, top recall value, please feel free to ask. So I see there is. So, Nitya, we had about 1,600 odd people who participated in the survey across the globe. I'm sure asking questions will make us more enlightened.
Yes, so I think the follow-up question that Ponji has asked is that were they from multiple industries? Absolutely, they were. They came from a large section of, so they came from different countries as well as multiple industries, including some of the top sectors which are B2B heavy. So it's fairly representative data. And one of the things that I must add is that this survey that we've done was in its eighth edition. So we've been doing this survey every 2 to 3 years. So this was the eighth edition that we've done. And we've also seen how these trends have been changing.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sumit.
Amrut, because of paucity of time, it may not be possible for us to do a complete recap. But maybe when we end the session, Vijay can do a quick recap for all of us. And then we've recorded the section till now, so we'll send across a copy of the recording as well to you.
So last question, Sumit, we'll quickly take this last question and then we'll move on. What is the best approach for silent clients or dead conversations, and what could be the cause?
Yeah, but I think that's a very interesting question, and thank you so much for asking that question. And I'll elaborate on this, maybe at a certain section later. But I'll give a little peek into this. See, the issue is that the purchasing process for organizations has become a lot more non-linear, and it's become a lot more complex, primarily because of what the after effects of the pandemic made the organizations very risk averse. And therefore, what happened was that when before an organization took a purchasing decision, the number of approvals required increased, and the number of stakeholders who had to agree, also increased. Because of this, the contacts that we sometimes, are communicating with, they become silent or dead because they don't know what is going on. So a lot of times the silent clients or the dead conversations are happening because of the changes in the way the company is buying, and understanding that dynamic is very, very critical to be patient and to be able to predict that dynamic, and its implication on the average sales cycle. The other important perspective over here is that sometimes the conversations become dead because certain set of clients may not feel comfortable going back and telling a selling organization that their proposal is not fitting in with their needs. So it's not that they are not buying. Maybe they're just buying from someone else, but they're not communicating effectively. And if that's happening, it is a cause of concern because then as sales organizations, we don't even get feedback. So how do sales organizations do closed lost analysis? And how much of that closed lost analysis is happening because of dead conversations is an interesting perspective to think about.
All right, so thank you so much, Sumit, for those lovely insight. I think we have answered all the questions. From here, moving on, something very interesting now comes up for our audience, which is a poll. I would now request everyone to spare some time. And following a sales meeting, what type of a follow-up from the salesperson helps the company move the buying process forward? So repeating the question, following a sales meeting, what are the follow-up steps from the salesperson's perspective that helps the process move forward quickly? So I would share some inputs here. So I would request if you could just take a moment and spare out time, and we'll just launch the poll for you. So it's right there on the screen. So if you could just help us understand what are your takeaways on by looking at these statements, which one do you think is more relevant in pushing up the process after the sales meeting? It's time bound. Let's quickly answer all of us. Just got 4 out of 16 answers. Can I request everyone to quickly just let us know? There's nothing as right and wrong here. Just go ahead. Still a few more to go. All right, 50% done. Interesting. All right. All right, last few seconds. Let's quickly respond, everyone. And people who have responded, thank you so much for your participation.
Seems like most people, Vijay, has responded, so maybe we can showcase the.
Yes, absolutely. Can we share the results? All right, so here it's right on the screen. So 55% say address questions or concerns, 36% they say confirmation of next steps, 27% they say respect of agreed follow-up milestones, which is time frame, 18% said provide additional information, and 55% said recap of the meeting. 27% said regular check-ins, and 18% said sharing of insights, with 0% for examples of work and no follow-up. All right, so let's look at what does the survey. So we also had something similar that we got done, and now let's look at what is the survey telling us around these same insights. Can we remove this? All right. Which one? Okay, got it. Thank you. All right, so now if you look at the screen, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, my bad. Following a sales meeting, what type of follow-up from a salesperson helps you move the buying process forward? Now, if you look at addressing questions or concerns, we go back to the same insight that we just discussed a while back. Are we actively listening to respond, or are we actively listening to understand the concern? 49.8% people say that addressing my questions and concerns during the conversation makes the buying process move forward quickly, which also signifies that you've understood, that also reflects your industry expertise, which also reflects your subject matter expertise, because you are prepared, you know your business, you know your product, and also you know your market well. Followed by confirmation of this next steps. 41% people agree to this piece, saying that if I know what is it that the salesperson would do next, what would he or she come back with, what am I supposed to do in the process, makes him or her feel more confident about the steps, and they can take a very informed decision because they're aware of the next step that's coming up. Followed by respect of agreed followed timelines, which is typically being structured. Whatever that we commit, going back to the same 2x2 matrix that Sumit, Sumit spoke about, being a sales consultant, which typically means you're also focusing on ensuring that you are committed into whatever that you have told the customer. I would respect your time, I would respect my time. For example, sharing a quick minutes of the meeting immediately after a sales meeting. It has to go out within a specific time frame, cannot be held back for a long period of time. So am I really committed? Provide additional information. There are opportunities where customers may ask for this person, about the information, which is 29% people say that, we would need information to ensure that we are more enlightened, we are more informed, we have a clarity of what or decision should we be taking, because I have enough information handy at my disposal. Recap of the meeting, 26.6%, do I paraphrase the entire conversation? Do I let my customer really know that I've understood your requirement? Have I, taken the right notes? So I call it as habit of writing, HOW. Whenever we are into meeting, do I take notes? Do I paraphrase it? Do I reconfirm with the customer? Have I understood the, requirement in the right frame? Regular check-ins. Once meeting is done, minutes of the meeting are sent, generally we tend to forget. We don't really follow up. So do I really go back to the customer, coming up with, sharing some more insights around it, or just doing a normal check-in saying, is everything okay? We had a discussion. What's happening at your end? You need not to be selling every time, just to maintain that connect. And, out of sight, out of mind, out of mind, out of sight. Simple. So be there, be in touch with your customers. 26% people say that it's important. Coming to the last three, sharing of insights, 19.3%. Examples of work and no follow-up. I call this as a no follow-up man or a woman, NFM or NFW. Become one, do things proactively, and make sure that you want to take the process forward, not keep it there. So this is very, very critical. And this number speaks volumes for itself, the way people are perceiving the entire sales process. Once you've got into it, what is the implication around it? So with this, Sumit, I really would like to understand, as we really reflect on the follow-up expectations that clients have, what is your takeaway from this? What would you like to share with our audience on this?
Thanks, Vijay. I think if we can go back to the previous slide, see, I think one of the key perspectives to keep in mind is that why is it that almost 50% of people, both in the poll that we did some time ago as live poll with this audience, as well as in the buyer survey, why is it that 50% of people are saying address questions and concerns? Why is that coming across as the top reason? And why is confirmation of the next steps coming across as the second big reason? I'll go back to the point I was making earlier. The issue that is happening is that for organizations, there has been the sales process has become a lot more non-linear, with more stakeholders that have got involved, right? So what are the drivers for it? One is that because of business uncertainty, clients are more risk averse, and therefore they want to ensure that they've de-risked. That's driver number one. Driver number two is that there is more and more of C-suite getting involved in decision making in the buying process. In fact, our research found out that for 34% of organizations, the C-suite has now got involved in making some critical buying decisions. And the third very critical driver is that the client is spoiled for choices. They have many other business partners that they can choose from. Why should they choose of working with us? And therefore, all of this is making the buying process for the client very complex, with many stakeholders involved, which have questions, which have concerns, and they need to be answered to. Now, what are the implications of this? And there are many, but there are really two that I'll talk about for the moment. One is that if I am an individual salesperson, one of the big implications of this finding is I need to be more structured and diligent. Unfortunately, not many salespeople can claim to be very strong in the area of being structured, right? Diligent, yes, but not necessarily very structured. But what the buyers are telling is that, listen, to work with us and to be successful with us, we require sales teams who are structured, who are diligent, who do a meeting, who have a structured process of following it up, answering our questions, don't leave anything on the table. So very high degree of detailed orientation is coming up as a competency over here. But the second big implication is for sales managers. What this slide is really implying is that whether the individual salesperson is structured or not, that is a driver. But the bigger driver is the sales organization itself working in a structured manner? How much is the sales manager able to drive to do sales management in a structured manner to help the salesperson understand what happened in the client meeting, decide what the next steps are, coach them and guide them? And in fact, one of the big implications on sales management from this slide is how much are sales managers actually leveraging their CRM systems? Many organizations globally, as well as in India, have invested in some very expensive and market-leading CRM systems. But the issue is that if the CRM system is not getting leveraged to manage the sales process, right? So, for example, we all know as sales professionals that selling is a process of stages, right? There is a client which is an active or a prospect becomes an active becomes a proposal becomes a warm proposal becomes a hot proposal, and a hot proposal becomes a contract. And there are specific interventions that are required in this pipeline to be able to move an active to a proposal to a warm proposal. So if the sales manager is not very good in understanding this client, hypothetically, is a proposal, to convert them into a warm proposal, we need to address these questions and concerns, and is not focusing with the salesperson to answer that question, it's not going to get done. And if this data is not lying in the organization's CRM, then the organization may lose out on some very critical selling opportunities. So to me, there are some very deep implications of this material, Vijay.
Thank you so much, Sumit, once again, for enlightening all of us. And I think that sums up the piece really well. The way the structure talks about the sales teams, if they are more structured, rather the managers, they drive it. We drive home the point really well. With this, Sumit, I would really like to understand, while going through the report, something really caught my attention. And this is to do with what just you mentioned, a while back. Only 40% of the organizations have stayed with their current supplier. I mean, that's an interesting number to look at. So what would you say about this? Why do you think it's only 40% of them sticking around with their current supplier? What happens to the rest 60%?
Yeah, so I think if you look at some of the underlying reasons why, right? See, what the buyers have told us is that why are they shifting organizations? Why are they shifting a business partner? One is because of service decline, right? So when a organization sees a service decline happening from a selling organization, they prefer to choose and shift. Second is lack of fresh ideas. So if you see what's happening specifically in the IT world, or ITS world, a lot of it, the supplier churn that we are seeing is because of the inability of the some of these organizations to provide fresh ideas to customers. Now, the question that therefore starts coming in, how does fresh ideas come? Where do fresh ideas come from, right? Fresh ideas come in if organizations have a very strong process. And I'm using the word process because you can't only depend on people capabilities for this. If organizations have a very strong process of understanding what the customer's needs are, what is my customer's strategy, what is their future strategy, what is their 3-year strategy, basis that what are the needs, what are the innovative things that we can partner with them, how can we co-create solutions for them. And all of this, therefore, comes under the umbrella concept of what we call as account management. Effectively, one of the key big reasons why organizations are struggling to retain their large customers, particularly the B2B customers, is because account management practices in most organizations is still basic, to the least. Sometimes I'm surprised to see that a lot of large organizations don't have strong account management practices and principles built in. So if you ask an account manager in a large organization to say, okay, this is your key account, show me your account plan, chances are that each individual salesperson will be having their own template of an account plan. And even if the template is common, it's more data filling rather than thinking about what do I need to do to retain this client and grow this client. So it's a behavioral issue, but more critically, it's a process, fix that organizations, need to take. On that note, Vijay, I wanted to share with the team, something. If you can, yeah. So when we look at, for example, the concept of key account management, we feel that what organizations need to do is to follow a 4-step process of account management and development, and we like to call this as the RAST framework. Now, R here stands for research. Research, simply put, means how much do we know our customer, right? If I'm an account manager managing a large organization, or if I'm a sales manager handling a key account, how much do I really know my customer? Do I know the account background, the customer's organization? Am I reading through their annual report? Do I have a fair amount of idea of what is their strategy? Are they going to go through an acquisition? Will they merge with someone? Are they looking at organic growth, inorganic growth, X, Y, Z, right? Research is very critical because without research, we are operating, in a blind shoot strategy, which is hit them with a product, it may or may not work. The second perspective of the RAS framework is what we call as analysis, which is A. Analysis here really means to retain and grow a client, we have to analyze our key account from multiple perspectives. How are we positioned in that company, which is account positioning? Which are the key stakeholders? How good have we mapped the account? Do we know only 5 people in the company, 10 people in the company? Do we know their personalities? Do we understand what are the priorities of each person? Are we able to understand what is the real competition we are facing in that key account? And how much are we able to use all of this analysis to create a very account specific SWOT to say vis-a-vis this account, what is our strengths, what is our weaknesses, what is our opportunities and threats, right? Then comes the S. The S is the strategy, that how do I, as a key account manager, use the research and the analysis to create a very strong account strategy, right? Am I clear about what is the business value that I'll add to that company? What are my account objectives? What is the type of revenue forecast, product and service forecast I can go after in this organization? And then comes the tactics, which is the T, which is to say, in the next quarter, what will I do? In the next quarter, what will my tactical account plan will be? What will be my relationship building strategy? What are the key events I will do with them? What are the key things competitors may do? How will I do counter tactics? How will I do account and strategy reviews? So the point I'm really trying to make is that unfortunately, too many sales organizations and key account managers are focused only on the tactics. And sometimes they don't even think the quarter, they think the next month. And that is not a great strategy to be able to ring fence and grow in a key account. What is really required is deeper account management principles, governance. So in my mind, there are three specific implications of this. A, are our key account managers actually really trained on how to do account management? Because some of them may not have done it in the past. B, do we have a defined process, right? And C, do we have a governance mechanism? Because key accounts are the most precious assets of an organization. So what is going to be a governance mechanism as an organization to retain and grow? These are some of the nuances to keep in mind.
Thank you so much, Sumit. I think this was very helpful and would help the audience as well to look at how they can improvise on the current key account development processes and the tactics that they are planning in by putting in the model that we just shared. So thank you so much for that once again. Now I would again take a pause, and now here we would like to understand from the audience if there are any questions that you would like to ask on whatever we have covered so far. Please feel free. And I would also encourage, if you really want to understand this detailed report or read through the detailed report, please reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to share that with you one-to-one. So we're opening the house now for any questions. Please feel free to ask.
So Vijay, while the audience is adding their questions, there was one question that had come in, when in the last round, which was around how to deal with very senior professionals like promoters and group chairmen, etc., when you need to close the sale. So maybe I can share my perspectives, on it, and please feel free to share your perspectives as well.
Absolutely.
When we are trying to interact with a senior stakeholder like a group chairman or a promoter, what is really important is the concept of what I like to call as EBS. And EBS stands for equal business stature. Now, what does this really mean? That, equal business stature means that I may not be obviously as, equal in the hierarchy as the senior stakeholder that I'm dealing with. But if I keep on thinking about that, I will never be able to raise my conversation level. So I do my conversations in a manner so that I'm able to convince the other person that I'm able to think and operate the way they do in an equal business stature level. Now, if you are a promoter or a group chairman, what are some of the key things that will be in your mind, right? What is keeping you awake at night? Where is the business headed? Are we getting enough profitability? So one would suggest to prepare very hard before the meeting. So the amount of research before the meeting will be very, very good, very, very critical to understand what has the promoter has said, what are the speeches they have given, what some of their YouTube videos, so that you're able to understand what are the challenges that they are talking about. How do you then leverage that knowledge in the meeting is very critical, right? How do you prepare yourself accordingly will be very critical. What case studies to display, what information to display will be very critical. And the third very important element is just humility and honesty, what we can deliver and what we cannot deliver. Having interacted with some of these stakeholders in the past, what I've realized is that the best strategy is just to be authentic and honest with them, to say, here is our understanding of the need, here is what we can do, here is what we cannot do. Because they will be able to catch you if you are trying to make a claim that your organization will not be able to do. But the third is to also just enjoy the conversation, right? Use it as a learning opportunity to learn about an organization, their strategy, the promoter's pain points. Sometimes it may help you to make a better dent in that meeting, but in many times it will help us to be better prepared for any other meetings with this person into the future. So those are some suggestions from my side to consider.
Thank you so much, Sumit. I think that was, again, very insightful. People, any more questions that we have, please feel free to ask us. We'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Like we always say, there's no question as a silly question. A question is a question. So you can just ask us if there is something that's coming up your mind, just pose it and we will be more than happy to answer that for you.
I think it seems like there are no more questions at this stage, Vijay. So maybe we should, go for the closure.
Absolutely, Sumit. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for being on this webinar with us. So just a quick recap around what we have covered so far. So we spoke about the survey that recently got conducted out of 16 odd countries with 1,600 responses, and we came up with 6 critical themes around each around the survey. We spoke of the most interesting one was conversations still matter, which is more face-to-face interactions is what the clients are looking at. While we do that, they're also targeting people who are emotionally intelligent. When I say that means, am I really honest in my conversations? Am I asking the right questions by making my conversation and my communication style effective? Last but not the least, how do I become a consultant? Where Sumit talked about the 2x2 matrix, I need to move into the consultant quadrant and become a professional. In order for me to close more numbers, not just numbers, I think become a consultant for that customer for life. And I know people who've been consultants, and wherever they go, that set of audience, they never leave this person. Followed by the interesting aspects about how do I manage my sales process? What are the key steps that I need to ensure to manage it, where we talked about the structured approach of not only the salespeople, but also the managers who needs to take the ownership of driving that structure and asking the right set of questions and enabling the teams to take those steps in the right fashion to deliver excellence in their customer sales process. Last but not the least, why are customers or brands moving on or switching to suppliers? And that's where we learned the most interesting aspect was around key account management. How do we handle bigger accounts by ensuring that we have a structured key account management plan, which we spoke about: RAS, research, analysis, strategy, and tactics. If applied in the right spirits, I think we have got the 70% of the act together, and then it's all about tactics, which is applying of the learnings and taking the information forward. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of this discussion and the webinar. If you really want to understand more and want to find out what really this report talks in detail around each theme that we spoke of, barring a few of them, feel free to reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to share the report with us. And if you have any requirements around any of these problem statements that we just shared, you can also reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to assist you and help you understand how can we solve this together as partners to your success. So with this note, Sumit, any closing lines from you?
No, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for attending the session today, and look forward to interacting with the team again soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah.